Fisherman reels in a river monster that experts are struggling to explain. Thalassophobia is an intense and persistent fear of the sea, and while phobias are generally perceived as being irrational, this is one makes sense. Just think of all those slimy, squirming creatures hidden in the watery depths. To make the terror even more poignant, to this day, so little is known about our planet's waters.
Before we begin, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos.
However, while the oceans are fear-inspiring enough, you don't even have to go that far to find the stuff of nightmares. Sometimes, even a body of water, as seemingly innocuous as a river, can be host to a whole world of monster-like creations. In the summer, one fisherman learned this the hard way. There are more than 8,000 rivers in Canada, so citizens are well acquainted with all the natural wonders they provide. In the heart of British Columbia, however, lies a river, the Fraser River, that is set apart for one slightly unsettling reason. The Fraser River is famous for being home to some of the largest sea creatures ever discovered. That's right, huge, hulking things that could probably beat Liam Neeson in a fight, if only they had legs. We certainly wouldn't want to swim there and risk the chance of something slimy brushing against a leg or nibbling a toe. But that doesn't mean that plenty of people don't get enjoyment out of it. Fraser is a highly popular fishing spot. In fact, Jeff Grimolfson, a lifelong fisherman, founded a group dedicated to providing tours of the famous river. Fittingly, he named it River Monster Adventures. This group doesn't just operate for fun, though. It plays a crucial role in helping local conservancies sustain populations of sturgeon, who call the churning waters their home. After catching the monumental fish, they tag them and send them back. For obvious reasons, this site has attracted tourists from far and wide. A British couple decided to travel there on a vacation. Their names were Margaret and Michael Snell, and they had no idea what awaited them. The lovebirds were relaxing on the boat, idly waiting for an unsuspecting fish to come swimming along, when they felt their line being tugged by something with an extreme amount of force. After an ensuing struggle, the couple's catch emerged from the murky waters, and they could hardly believe their eyes. The huge fish was an astounding 12 feet long. They'd broken a world record. 2 years later, the Fraser River would yet again produce something that startled visitors. It was Father's Day, and Paul Jarvis decided to take his father Ron on a special trip to the famed fishing spot. After hours of inactivity, the line suddenly jerked, and Paul struggled to get control of whatever beast was on the other end of it. "I'm a big guy, but I couldn't even hold the rod," he exclaimed. After all was said and done, they'd pulled in a truly massive find. The sturgeon they caught weighed a formidable 900 pounds, the same as an average-sized adult male polar bear. No wonder it was such a challenge. Although these catches were no doubt impressive, Fraser River's strangest secret by far had yet to be found. It lay in wait, lurking beneath the opaque surface, just daring someone to pull it in. Enter Nick McCabe. It was the summer, and the teenager had taken a job as a guide at River Monster Adventures. He had the whole summer ahead of him, and he was excited to get to work. Things had been going smoothly. McCabe was a natural at the job. One fateful day, he took the boat out with a couple of friends. Unfortunately, things had been pretty slow, and so far, they hadn't caught anything noteworthy. The group of fishermen headed to one last spot for the day, reluctantly preparing to go home empty-handed. Little did they know, they would soon encounter something extraordinary. Suddenly, amidst the placid surface of the river, McCabe spotted something that was undeniably huge. He set his sights on it, and they began to trail it in the boat, breaths held in anticipation. McCabe later recounted the first moment he knew he was in for something special. "The fish jumped right out of the river, and I said, 'Well, that looks like a 10-footer, so strap on. We're going to be into at least a 2-hour fight.'" Ultimately, the intense struggle took even longer, a full 2 hours and 15 minutes. Whatever this was, it possessed ungodly strength, and the fight was exacerbated by McCabe's preference for short lines. Soon, everything would start to make sense. Finally, after hours of physical and mental endurance on the part of McCabe and his pals, the group was able to reel in their monster of a catch. What they saw, when it emerged, shocked them to their very cores. This was no normal sturgeon. It looked more like a monster than a fish. Its snout was elongated and strangely shaped, resembling none other than a pig's snout. They'd soon learn that this fish was in fact notorious. McCabe was quickly informed that he caught a local legend, and he even had a name, Pig Nose. Pig Nose wasn't born looking the way he did, though. Tragedy had befallen the odd-looking sea creature. That's right, 40 years earlier something or someone had injured Pig Nose. Luckily, the unusual animal was able to survive his wounds. However, when they healed, he was permanently deformed, left looking more like a barnyard animal than a river dweller. 40 years ago. That's a long time. However, it only represents half of Pig Nose's long and storied existence, for the animal is believed to be at least 80 years old, and at 10 feet and 650 pounds, he's still growing. Young but precocious Nick McCabe was the first fisherman to ever catch the elusive creature. To celebrate the milestone, the two took an adoring picture together, man and fish, no longer foes but friends. McCabe had thought that all the local buzz around Pig Nose's historic catch was finally starting to die down. However, a year after the legendary incident, something incredibly strange happened. While cruising the waters one hot summer day, McCabe spotted something large lurking beneath the depths. An hour later, he'd done it again. He'd caught Pig Nose. After this huge coincidence, McCabe started to develop a feeling of special intimacy with the gentle creature. He might not be the largest fish in the river, but it's a very special fish for us, he said. Of course, Fraser River doesn't hold the world's monopoly on strange and incredible creatures of the deep. In fact, pretty much wherever there's water, you can expect to find some brave soul searching for a monster of their own. Sometimes what they find is even stranger than anticipated. Located in the provinces of Van and Bitlis, Lake Van is easily the largest body of water in all of Turkey, but sheer size isn't the only thing that makes this lake such a natural wonder. It's also hiding a secret within its depths. Despite being situated over 5,000 feet above sea level, Lake Van never freezes. The lake's high salinity keeps the water flowing year-round, though this phenomenon has come at the price of Lake Van's biodiversity. Because of these high salt levels, only one type of fish, the pearl mullet, is known to live in the lake's brackish waters. However, according to local legend, these mackerel-sized fish aren't the only creatures lurking beneath the waves of Lake Van. For over a century, locals have reported sightings of a monster that calls Lake Van its home. Most of these claims have proven unfounded over the years, though in 1997, Anal Kazak managed to capture the creature on film. In the video, a large, almost squid-like monster emerges from the water before slowly disappearing beneath the waves. Yet, like similar sightings of legendary creatures, the legitimacy of Kazak's discovery continues to be a point of contention among scholars. Even so, the possible existence of such a creature hasn't deterred archaeologists from exploring the lake. Just recently, in fact, an expedition led divers to the very bottom of Lake Van, though what they found there was unlike anything they'd seen before. On the day in question, a group of researchers, assembled by Van Uysenku Yale University, arrived at the lake shore to debunk another age-old myth, that the lost city of Atlantis was actually somewhere beneath Lake Van. Believe it or not, this idea wasn't so far-fetched. The land surrounding Lake Van was once home to the Urartians, an ancient civilization that flourished in Turkey during the Iron Age some 3,000 years ago. Yet despite their centuries-long presence in the area, very few remnants from the days of these ancient peoples still remain. While conquest surely played a role in the disappearance of most Urartian structures, some scholars believe the rising tides of Lake Van sunk these relics beneath the water. Locating these structures would be no easy task, however, so the team opted to bring in a little extra help. A veteran underwater photographer, Tosin Salen, was pegged to lead the expedition's dive team. in search of the lost Eurasian kingdom. With his years of diving experience, coupled with his extensive knowledge of Lake Van, Salen was surely the team's best bet for uncovering this long-forgotten piece of history. But when it finally came time to take the plunge into the lake, even Salen couldn't help but feel a little wary over the thought of the legend of the Lake Van monster. Sure, he dived here hundreds of times before, but would this be the day he finally came face to face with the terrifying creature? The team seemed to echo their guide's fears, and as they dove deeper into the lake, it became increasingly difficult to shake this unnerving thought. After all, in a body of water as large and murky as this one, almost anything could be lurking just a few feet below. Once they'd reached the bottom of Lake Van, Salen and his team quickly set to work combing the sands for any sign of Eurasian artifacts. Almost instantly, one of the divers spotted an enormous shadow that made everyone's blood run cold. Shrouded in a veil of deep blue, what the diver saw sat in total stillness, almost as if it were made of stone. The divers summoned their courage and swam toward the sight, but what they found wasn't a monster. It was a castle. The towering structure was in remarkable condition, its walls and foundation intact. It had certainly been down here for quite some time, but was this castle truly a relic from the long-forgotten Eurasian Empire? They needed to know more. As Salen and his team continued exploring the ruins, one of the divers stumbled upon a revelatory etching on one of the walls, that of a lion. This all but confirmed the castle was Eurasian, as the civilization had used symbols such as these to identify themselves as a kingdom for centuries. After snapping photos of the structure, the divers returned to the surface to share their findings with the rest of the team. The researchers were thrilled at the discovery, though upon learning of the lion symbol, things quickly became complicated. Despite the Eurasians using this motif throughout their history, some of the scholars believed the lion symbol looked more medieval than ancient. If this was the case, then the castle would date back to the Middle Ages rather than the Iron Age. The structure itself also supported this theory, as the stones used to build it were a mix of both Tartarian and medieval. This led scholars to deduce the kingdoms of the Middle Ages likely repurposed materials from these ancient ruins to build their own fortresses. The archaeological community remained split over the true origin of the castle beneath Lake Van. In the meantime, historians turned their attention to a new discovery made in the US, one that might be even more extraordinary than the lost Tartarian kingdom. Beneath the calm waters of Cape Cod in Massachusetts, divers found a massive secret, one that lay hidden for hundreds of years. It would excite just about any historian they knew. It's the wreck of the Wida, a massive ship built to hold 150 men and several hundred tons of cargo. It went missing off the coast of New England in 1717, and many assumed it was lost forever. However, explorer Barry Clifford discovered the wreck of the Wida in 1984, and he has been digging up artifacts from the site ever since. His exploits make him one of the greatest treasure hunters of all time. Barry has long been on the hunt for a treasure that will make him a legend. He once believed he found the remnants of the Santa Maria from Christopher Columbus' original 1492 voyage, but tests later determined it was a different vessel. The Wida, however, was a monumental find. It was the flagship of one of history's greatest pirates, Black Sam Bellamy. This captain was known as the Robin Hood of the sea, and for good reason. For one thing, Bellamy only targeted wealthy merchants and tried to use as little violence as possible. His crew members received equal pay and respect, even those who were Native Americans or former slaves. In fact, the Wida was originally the property of slave traders until Bellamy seized it by force and freed the captives aboard. Most famously, Bellamy pulled off the biggest heists in pirate history. Historians estimate that he plundered the modern equivalent of $120 million throughout his career. These daring exploits made Bellamy one of the most talked about pirates of his time. He rose above his criminal origins to become a bona fide folk hero. Unfortunately, Bellamy didn't have much time to enjoy his success. A massive storm sank the Wida, claiming untold amounts of treasure and most of the crew. including Bellamy himself. Centuries later, Clifford and his colleagues have unearthed countless relics and treasures from the wreck, and they established the Wida Pirate Museum to share Bellamy's story. Even though Clifford's team has been studying this site for decades, he still felt like they were only scratching the surface. Then, one diving mission in late 2016 changed everything. The explorers located a large chunk of debris from the Wida that had many artifacts trapped inside of it. They hauled it up to dry land for a closer look. It presented a virtual treasure trove, with genuine coins and seafaring equipment jutting through the rough surface. But this motherlode contained one thing the scientists didn't expect to find: human bones. They came across a femur just a short distance away from what appeared to be Bellamy's pistol. Could it be the remains of the late great captain himself? Clifford knew they needed proof, so he recruited a team of forensic scientists. They extracted DNA from the bone and compared it to that of one of Bellamy's descendants in the United Kingdom. At last, the results came in. But it was not a match. This bone likely belonged to an anonymous crew member, but certainly not to Captain Bellamy. The elusive Black Sam slipped away from authorities once again. The bad news stumped Clifford's theory faster than the Wida. Nevertheless, the bone gave researchers the chance to learn more about the typical sailor from that era. Clifford can still take pride in his ongoing excavation of the Wida. After all, no other famous pirate ship has been studied so closely. Nobody can question his accomplishments or contributions to history. Besides, the mysteries of the Wida are still out there in the briny deep, and Bellamy's final resting place may even surface someday. All it will take is the right person to find it.